Hello, this is Dr. Fitzgerald. In this video, we want to discuss factoring by grouping. So let's look at our first example. We want to factor the quantity x cubed plus 2x squared plus 3x plus 6. And notice that the first type of factoring that we should always check for, no matter what method we're using, is the greatest common factor. We want to see if anything has a greatest common factor. If so, we should always remove the greatest common factor first. Notice there's no greatest common factor. That is, there's no term that can be removed from each of these terms. So no factor that can be removed from each of these terms. So notice the second thing that I noticed is that there are 4 terms. So when there's no GCF and there's 4 terms, that's a key or hint for me that I need to use factoring by grouping. Factoring by grouping, we want to group terms together that have common factors. And so that's what we're going to do now. And since the middle sign is a positive, I'm just going to simply go ahead and group things. So I'm going to have x cubed plus 2x squared, and I'm going to group those together because they have something in common. Then plus, and then 3x plus 6, and group those because they have something in common as well. Now let's go ahead and remove the common factors. In the first set, we can remove x squared. When factoring out an x squared, we're left with x plus 2. Next, we see that we can factor out a 3. And then we're also left with x plus 2. When factoring by grouping, it should always end up being that what's left on the end side of your parentheses after removing the common factor, that is the exact same term. So what we do now, because that's in common, because x plus 2 is in this first part and x plus 2 is in the second part, that's a GCF. So we can factor that out. So if I factor out the x plus 2, we need to now write what's left. Well, if I took out an x plus 2 from this first set, what's left is x squared plus 3, because 3 is left in the second part. And that would be my final answer in that case. So let's look at another example here. What if we had to factor x cubed plus 5x squared minus 5x minus 25. Notice this looks a little different because my middle sign is negative. So I need to rewrite this guy. I want to rewrite this as x cubed plus 5x squared plus, I'll go ahead and group those, plus a negative 5x minus 25. So notice I kept the negative sign with the 5 and rewrote that as plus a negative. If you recall from grade school, you always learn that 5 minus 3 can be written as 5 plus a negative 3. And so that's pretty much what we did there. So okay, let's go ahead. So now recall, once we've grouped our factors or our terms, we want to now remove the common factor. So from our first set, we can remove x squared. So once x squared is removed, we have x plus 5. Next, recall when our leading coefficient is negative, we want to remove that negative. But I can remove more than a negative 1. I can actually remove a negative 5 from this. So I remove a negative 5 or factor out a negative 5. And when doing that, recall the signs on the inside must change. So we have x plus 5. So now that we see that we have x plus 5 in both parts, we can factor out x plus 5. And when we factor out x plus 5, what's left is x squared minus 5. And that is our final answer. And this is how we factor by grouping. Thank you.